little quiet reflection on what we know so far about Discovery and Picard and all that stuff here. Let's make sure everyone's on the right page here. You see, now, and Gary and I'll check with their sources there. They're still standing by. The Kurtzman is effectively fired. Now, that's effectively fired. Now, remember, Hollywood operates under a whole different set of reality than the rest of us here, okay? Because he's got that big 5-year contract. And CBS is on shaky financial ground, so they cannot spook the investors right now, or they'll pull the money out and they'll be, swallowed up by Paramount with it for a song. And they can't have that. Everything is about, perception and, keeping face. And in case this is a case where even the normal rules of Hollywood don't quite apply because they got that property, Star Trek, which is, for a long time, it was like the crown jewel for Paramount and then Viacom and CBS. And none of them really had known how to handle it properly. Paramount came the closest after a while. It took them like 20 years to figure it out, but even then, still didn't quite get it. But CBS really doesn't get it. Thank you, Les Moonves, for installing that culture. But yeah, because of that little contract here, no, they can't out and out fire Kurtzman because it'll cost him $25 million to buy out his contract with that. Plus, you got the whole thing of, you gave this guy this big contract and then you had to fire him. What the hell's going on over there? I don't think I want to invest my billions of dollars into your company. Thank you very much. I'll take it back. That's what they're afraid of right there. A lot of people doing that, and suddenly you have no network. The Tiffany network turns to Swiss cheese. So yeah, they got to keep them around. They got to trot them out once in a while. But now, they don't have to listen to them in the fact that they can just keep pulling away his authority. That's what they started doing almost immediately. Once it was clear that he was not going to fix Discovery, then you have, here comes John Van Citters. He's going to be head of brand development now. That was one of Kurtzman's jobs, not anymore. Then you have in this global, brand group, headed by Veronica Hart and a few others. And yeah, they operate in the secret hideout, offices. They don't answer to Kurtzman. They answer to the head of CBS. In other words, Kurtzman has no say over them. They got say over him. They're there to keep an eye on him and keep him in line. So yeah, Kurtzman, he gets his contract, he gets his paycheck. He doesn't have any control. Okay, the only control that he really has is the fact that they're still bound by that stupid license. Now, maybe things could change if the merger comes out and suddenly it's like, no, that license with the company no longer exists. Now this is the new deal. Take it or leave it and hit the bricks. That's what the hope is right now. And again, all we know is that once the merger happens, then it's all bets are off and anything can happen. It can get worse, it can get better. We're hoping for better. Right now we're kind of stuck with this, bad robot, secret hideout, crap. And again, I'm willing to concede that this might not be a bit of a conspiracy on Jade's part, but with other moves lately, it's looking more like that maybe Midnight Edge is onto something here, because JJ's been planting people everywhere now. He's got his assistant, the creative head over at Lucasfilm. You got Abrams over at Paramount with Star Trek. You got his kid at Marvel Comics, for God's sakes. Okay. It's like he's staging his own little coup of Hollywood here, trying to take over. He's wiring himself in everywhere. Again, even if it's nothing official, in fact, this is an all-in subsidiary of Bad Robot, these people are friendly to him. They owe him his their careers, pretty much. Which can probably be a little, probably worse than a written contract. Written contract you can find a way out of. You can't find a way out of, I made you, I can destroy you type thing. But that's where we stand on that thing. It's one thing they can't do is make us watch. That's the one part where we have the final vote and the control there. It's like, no. And that's, again, why things went weird with those test screenings. It's not working. And that is why now he is no longer the showrunner of Picard. Michael Chabon is. And they're not even making the pretense of co-showrunner with it with Michelle Paradis. No, Michael Chabon is the showrunner. He is in charge. Kurtzman can put in notes and suggestions here and there, but Michael Chabon makes the decisions creatively. Now he's got at least 3 other producers that probably know how to handle the nuts and bolts of the money thing. Because Chabon, he's got impressive credits as a novelist. He has virtually none in TV. He's got that one Star Trek short. That's not good, okay? That's like making me story editor because I'm helping with the New Concordance as the publishing, but I'm helping. So, we got a ways to go. Things are hopeful. Well, we ain't there yet. We're not going to make a pretense we are there yet. And again, get off this thing of he's still there. There are, let's see. Red Letter Media did a review of the last season of Discovery. That's hilarious. I suggest you watch it. But they did a count of the opening credits. After you go through the cast, they did a count. Producers and executive producers. 21 producers, and most of them executive producers. That is... Who the hell puts up that kind of Rube Goldberg situation here? Once upon a time, okay, not that long ago, apologies to Bon Jovi, a show had 1, maybe 2 executive producers. Couple of producers, to handle the, and that was it. The story editor, and then, who the hell puts that many executive producers in one show? No wonder the thing's a psychotic mess. You don't talk about too many chiefs, not enough Indians. It's like fucking 15 chiefs and one little brave out there with a bow and arrow. It's like, what do I do? For a show like that, you got to have one guy in charge with a vision, and the rest of them just say, yes, sir, what do you want? Because one of the big problems with Discovery has been a lack of consistency, even from episode to episode. Never mind with the rest of the series, the rest of the franchise. They've blown sequence within one episode, where they'll say one thing and then 10 seconds later totally contradict themselves. So, you gotta want, again, quit thinking normie, okay? In this sense. Fired in Hollywood does not mean you're out, usually does not mean you're out the door and on the bricks. It means you are no longer in charge here. You still got your contract, you still get paid, you still got their name on the credits and everything else. But we do not have to listen to you. You are not even allowed on the set. In fact, they actually had security drag his ass off a lot. But, much the way he apparently had Bob Orsi ushered off the lot back during one of the Star Trek movies. He got so irony is fun, isn't it? But now, right now, Kurtzman is still pretty much the face of the franchise. I was also saying the most punchable face in the history of the franchise since Fred Freiberger. And Fred Freiberger is actually looking like a very sympathetic character these days now. But again, at least you had one guy who was in charge, more or less in charge. And his idea of what Star Trek was direct contradiction. But at least one guy's vision, he had to follow that. He didn't have 50 different guys chipping in ideas saying, no, we're going to do this. And well, I'll take that back a little bit. Yeah, you had people chipping ideas, but Freiberger was under obligation to follow them. He didn't have to listen to anybody. Okay, he could, This is a case of not only are these 15 different ideas at once being listened to, they're being actually enacted on. Well, that's a great idea. Write it down. That's a great idea, and then you get a mishmash of episodes that make no freaking sense. little tantalizing little thought bombs that never get followed up on. And that is not writing, okay? That's just, spitballing. And this does go into the thing of where Chabon being in charge is probably a positive in the fact that he is actually a writer. You don't win the Pulitzer Prize for literature, because you can spell properly. You have to craft a coherent story. And I like to point, that they mentioned, the Spider-Man credits. His script was the bad one. Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Electro and what was supposed to be Green Goblin. Yeah, that's the Spider-Man he worked on. Only a third of his made it in. We don't know if it was a good third or the bad. But yeah, that's not necessarily a good credit to hang your hat on. But at least he knows how to put together a narrative from A to B to C, and hopefully, he did Calypso. That's considered one of the best of the short treks, mainly because it had virtually nothing to do with the overall narrative of Star Trek Discovery. And it's like, okay, we got the ship about 1,000 years. It's been sitting here for 1,000 years. Okay, which presumably, I guess, would be like after they shot forward about 1,000 years. So we're talking like 2,000 years later. As for, and again, going back, what have they trotted up Kurtzman to tell us? Nothing new. We'd already heard from our sources about how third season of Discovery was going to be just a series of short treks, because that's all they had the money for. Now we already got one in production here with Spock and Number One. No Anson Mount, but no Pike. Why? Because you recall that thing, little thing where Anson Mount, they tried to happy dance. Oh, his contract was up anyway. He wasn't going to be back. But the thing is, you don't call in HR, human resources, if you're just not going to renew a contract. You'd call the guy in. You'd call his agent in. You don't. He got in a fight on set. Okay. Speculation is it may have been with Kurtzman himself. And doing a little body language interpretation of Anson Mount at conventions, it's like he's really in no hurry to come back. It's like he was flattered and deeply honored that the fans liked him that much that they will want a Pike series. And there are a lot of reasons why it would make a whole lot of sense, because you got those Enterprise sets you built. You might as well put them to use. And something the fans actually positively responded to. But as long as Kurtzman is there, you won't see Anson Mount within 10 parsecs of that lot. Okay. And one thing I think, let's talk about Anson Mount for a second. And I tweeted this to him. He was the only one on that set. He actually knew what the hell he was doing. He actually realized he was on a Star Trek show, and it turns out he is a longtime Star Trek fan. So no one had to tell him about Captain Pike, who he was and stuff. And you could tell he was channeling a little bit of Jeff Hunter there. But I would like to see him in a proper Captain Pike series on the right sets and the right uniforms, and the right continuity. And I would not mind putting the test to one of those guidelines in the fan film thing. Get him down to Kingsland on those sets. It doesn't take much to redress those sets for pilot. In fact, I think they used them for the that Captain April film that's still working on. In fact, I'm pretty sure they were, because every time we go down, every time I see footage on there, then Captain April nameplate is still on the door outside the door in the quarters. And that's the only Captain April film I know of that's in production. It's that one where supposedly when he first gets the Enterprise. I wish they would finish that. It's supposed to have been done by now. But get him down there and get him in the right costume. I would still prefer to see Susie Plaxton as number one, though. I think she's a better match for Majel Barrett, and also for number one because Majel was quite tall in the day. Okay, I think she'd shrunk a little bit by the time I met her, a couple of times, but because I was about right eye level, but she was rather tall back then. And Susie also kind of looks a little like Majel. And I suppose, Ethan Peck did okay with what he was given. Well, he would do all right, I guess. I'd work on the hair a little bit. That didn't quite match. But yeah, it doesn't take much to, get those sets, matched up with the original, with the, pilot era stuff. In fact, since we're talking post-Cage, you could get it a little closer, but closer to where No Man's Gone before, because they had redone a little bit there. It wasn't quite as gray. There was more color, and you could show them bringing in some of these new systems. Replacing the the little hand lasers, with some upgraded stuff, and actually take the opportunity to explain what happened to the phase pistols. I like the explanation when they it was in one of the Reeves Stevens books. I think it was Federation, but talking about how they had to pretty much abandon that stuff when the Romulan War hit because the exotic stuff had to wait a bit. It was a little too expensive, a little too hard, a little too long to produce one things. Whereas they could crank out hand lasers and plasma torpedoes by the ton. And so had them, because you notice in where No Man Has Gone before, the pistols have been modified somewhat, because in the Cage they're pretty plain. The black body there, whereas with where No Man's Gone before, suddenly there's a big wheel in the back, and some buttons on the side are actually typewriter parts. So you explain, okay, yeah, well, it's now incorporating some phase pistol, some phase weapon technology. So, okay. Now we got more settings. We can do stun again. Yeah, it's good. Okay. But you can do stuff like that, and that would also, I'd put that on my list of things to win back the fans. If they really want to make this serious and get back to canon Star Trek. So let's get that list up there. Okay, yeah, so go ahead and make a deal. Make Star Trek Continues canon. Make that the 5th season. Then you got the gap filled in between the end of the animated series and the motion picture. Do a Captain Pike series. And the sets are already there, and they are, just look at Star Trek Continues. Those sets are fine for production. You light that right, and you get, crew that knows how to get right camera angle. Those sets are perfectly fine. They've showed themselves over and over again through that series and other fan films that have used them, that they're perfectly fine for production. And it wouldn't take much to finish up. There's like 2 or 3 sections left to do the full bridge. And actually, for that time period, for a Captain Pike series, they've already got a view screen. It's in the auxiliary control room. But that is the Cage era view screen. So just move that over to the bridge, and there, you're done for that. And Anson Mount would get a kick because he'd been on the Ticonderoga sets. And, the old thing would go sit in the chair, and he really fangirled out by his own admission when he sat down in the command chair. So, I suppose I could live with Rebecca Romijn as number one. I'm fine with her. She's enough of a goofball. She can be fun. But I would definitely get a new set of writers. I would bring in writers who knew what the hell they're talking about. I would bring in the old DS9 crew and some of the Voyager guys, ones who really do know because it's kind of like when Ron Moore said when they were starting up Enterprise, and was going to be a prequel. He had his doubts because of Rick Berman and Brannon Braga and their feeling towards the original series type thing. It's like, it's there, they got to put up with it. But so you're doing a show like that, you better become a full blue, true, full on hardcore believer in the original series, or you're gonna have problems. You're gonna start contradicting things you didn't even know you're up against. And as I was upon further reflection, as I was going through and compiling a list of new episodes for the Concordance, and you got to go through Enterprise. Part of the thing with Enterprise is that they didn't really contradict a lot as far as actual hard canon. What they did was really upset a lot of fan assumptions that had been built up over the years. And stuff that's like what's called beta canon. But it's like, no, canon's canon, okay? There's canon and there's speculation. And what they did was they upset a lot of apple carts in the speculation category. But actual out-and-out screwing up, they didn't do a lot of that. There's a couple instances where you got to squint and move on. And also, there's the caveat, and it's a cheat, but it's there. It's there to be used, I think. When Archer hit the big reset button at the end of, I think it was whatever the episode, Stormfront, I think it was the Nazi episode when they're kicking off the fourth season, or the third season. Whatever. When Manny Koto became the showrunner, and they had to wrap up what he was handled with the Nazis, alien Nazi thing. They had to it was going to season 4 because it was in the blown up Bazindy thing. You can explain away a lot of stuff of what went weird and contradicted in the first seasons up to that point, and say, well, that was corrected when they reset, after the temporal Cold War and the timeline reset, because they do show this the timeline's resetting. So anything weird that happened in those first few seasons, they reset. They don't count anymore. Don't worry, they're not there. Everything else largely happened the way we saw it. But any contradictory parts, no, those got sorted out. Anything in the fourth season on, that's on the show. So. And yeah, you got to squint if you look a bit there. But I think they handled the Romulans pretty well. You gotta reach a little bit. And as far as the cloaking device thing goes, because how Spock and didn't really know much about, we're not aware that the Romulans could cloak. You could make a case that part of their technology was kept out of the general historic record, because you don't need to put that out there. It's kind of classified. That's the one where the classification can kind of work to a point. You'd have to say, well, if they had dug a little further, then and because of the situation, they didn't even know they were going to be Romulans. They didn't go any further. It's just they knew what they were taught in history class, and they didn't bother to look. Type of thing. And nobody's done any cloaking stuff for about a century, so it falls out of use. And oh really? But Spock was able to leap on the theory, but it's theoretically possible. The power cost must be enormous, So yeah, they know roughly how it can be done. So it's not that really reach to say that. Again, it smells a bit, and it doesn't bear up if you really push on it. So you don't push on it. So, okay, that's what it was. And stuff like that is just weird enough to be realistic, because human beings. No. And that is no more egregious than some of the other boners I've been through the original series. So, yeah. That's certainly not, any worse than, them handling the Ferengi. Well, they never mentioned the name, please. The entire crew was awake by the time they're, being ushered off the ship back onto their own thing. Somebody would have asked, "Who the hell are you people?" Okay? In that case, I'm going to go with maybe the Ferengi gave him a false name, which is perfectly in keeping with him. Cat, you're a mess. Give me just a second. Right. But Jones. Yes, I'm taking precautions not to avoid being locked out again by this little twerp. What time is it? Almost 8. Okay. So, again, just sort of musings on a Saturday morning. Let's go and wrap this up here. Cat's getting restless. But yeah, Kurtzman is because the same thing kind of happened with Don Belisario on NCIS. Yeah, his name is still there as executive producer, and I'm sure he's still, he can still write shit. But as the showrunner, Mark Harmon pretty much had to, because he was because Belisario was spending so much time rewriting and tinkering the scripts and everything, he was holding up production. So Mark Harmon, who is an executive producer on the show, he pretty much had to come in. No, Don, we got this, okay? It's time to let it go and let it run here, okay? So, and Mark Harmon effectively became the showrunner of that show. Belisario still has, executive producer credit. He's still, it's still his show technically, but he's no longer in charge. So that sort of thing. And they still like Don, okay? He's still very much a valued person because he created the show, and yeah. But his presence became a bit of a liability because he was, again, time is money, literally, in these people's, And you miss an air date, and your name is Mud, and then, oh. What is your problem? Knock it off, you. Yeah. Come on. Calm down, you. You're further. There. Oh. So it is not unprecedented at all for Kurtzman to be fired and yet not fired, okay? It is Hollywood. It is contract law. Why do they call it La La Land, okay? This is not normal, normal situation. And as someone has also pointed out, he's still at least considerably working on, stuff for CBS, Hawaii 5-0 and everything. There's other stuff, but as far as Star Trek goes, it's like, no, his input is no longer required. They have other people in charge of that now. Thank you, Alec. We'll call you when we need you to trot you out for a press conference or some kind of thing. Now, I would like to think that he would no longer be welcome at no longer going to be at the Star Trek Vegas thing. But again, if he's being used as a propaganda tool now by CBS, then it's entirely possible he will be there. You never know. But that's pretty much a DS9 party anyway, because that's a big 25th anniversary blowout. And for everyone's sake who's going to be there, I hope they do run that documentary, What We Left Behind. And maybe we can get a DS9 Blu-ray set of this. I don't know, because officially, oh, you knock it off, you. It's not hot at all. Stop it. Seriously, it's overcast. It might be in the 70s. Hey, get a grip. But and he's got water back there. Just filled it with water. Okay. We will pause here a minute while I tend to the cat. So, okay. He's got his water replenished now. So he's out there looking out over the, surveying his realm more or less. But, okay. You happy now? You got food, you got water. What is your problem? So you want to learn, a crash course in interspecies communication, get a cat. Because they will, actually, you learn a lot just, of, how to deal with an alien intelligence that is trying to communicate. Not that they're trying to do any deep and meaningful conversations with you, it's just like feed me or, make the wind blow, which I'm going to do right now. Okay. All right. Well, that's where we stand, kids, okay? And I say again, defending Kurtzman, and his job, is that the hill you want to die on, okay? Really? Are you that butthurt over, Midnight's Edge and Doomcock and getting scoops on this, that you're going to defend this moron? Just to stick it to Midnight's Edge and Gary and Doomcock? Really? That's what we descended to? So I'll say again, as far as Star Trek is concerned, Kurtzman is there merely as a propaganda tool of CBS. He is no longer in control. All his authority has been stripped away for the most part. He's not running Discovery. That's Michelle Paradise's show, although considering the last 2 episodes were hers, that doesn't bode well. Assuming again, there's still not a given that show's really going to happen either. They're trying to cast for, that's something to talk about. They want their little token non-binary character, which I translate as some teenage chick who's willing to get naked on camera and get freaky with whatever the hell the makeup department cooks up. This is no longer really about diversity. It's tokenism, okay? This is a freak show. There's look, we have our half-gay, Filipino, amputee over here, and they're, this is, And again, it's insulting because Star Trek essentially invented the whole thing of diversity on television, most part. I mean, yeah, there were shows before that, but Star Trek was a highlight of that, okay? But back then, you didn't have characters created based on their physical or cultural stereotypes. Richard Daystrom was not written as a black character. It was during the casting process. Hey, how about Richard? How about Marshall over here? Yeah, or whatever those. Yeah. And that's where you start. Hey, it'd be fun to have this guy play it. Because Runway is all about weird casting. But the character was written as the character. Crazy computer genius who's trying to get one last hurrah. William Marshall. That was will you stop it? I ran the battery down yesterday to run the fan without the engine going. I had to get a jump. But they're doing this. It's, they're doing this like an old Barnum and Bailey freak show on the over on the side. And that is just plain insulting on so many levels for the groups being supposedly represented. This is what they think of you. They think you're the freak of the week. They want to trot you out and score diversity points. Okay. I'm sure some activists saying it's making up for lost time, because there's been no gay representation for so many years, and now we get all over the damn place. And so now we got Wilson Cruz and Daniel Rapp and Tig Notaro, and they're looking for another one to throw in there. It's like, did Logo throw a syndication deal their way? It's like, get more gays on there. We want to really, we want to really camp this show up, okay? Yeah. I mean, what's next to cater to this particular, demographic? Not that there were a lack of gay Star Trek fans to begin with. I don't know where they're thinking of. We need more gays. There's always been gay fans, and the lack of any, obvious gay characters has not really been a detriment to that. Okay. Now, yes, it'd be good to have, they have them there. But have an honest representation. Okay, that was one. Roddenberry's big thing when they were asked about during Next Generation, and how to to present gay characters in that setting when it's no longer a big deal. How do you show them as gay? Do you have them sashaying down the hallways, holding hands or whatever, doing the stereotypical gay stuff? They wouldn't be doing that by that time. I like Kate Mulgrew's answer to a question. And I saw this personally at Starfest. And she was asked, when are we going to see gay characters in Star Trek? Her response is, you already have, dear. You already have. Is that really? Can you tell by looking who's gay and who's not? That was the point. You don't know who the hell's sleeping with who. Unless they make a point of it. And nobody, and at that point, who makes a point of it now? As for cultural norms make you assume everyone's straight, but you can't tell by looking. And that was the point. By that time in history, and nobody's gonna make it advertising because it's none of their damn business. And that was also a bit of an argument made for killing Blood and Fire, although having seen a couple different versions of that story now, but because David Gerrold adapted it for his Star Wolf book series, and most prominently in the Star Trek New Voyagers or Phase 2, it may have been Phase 2 by then, episode or two-parter. That one I got problems with just on his direction of it and some of the choices he made. But story-wise, I think, it holds up. Okay. I wonder if maybe the Klingon attack was a little tacked-on thing to pad things out. And the make-out scene between Peter Kirk and his boyfriend was like that's a bit much there. That's, And he admitted it was he was making up for lost times. Like, that's just intrusive. Okay, it doesn't matter who's doing it. This is getting uncomfortable here, just because it went on for so damn long. So that one I would cut that scene down quite a bit to just a little bit, get the point across, and then move on to the story. Anyway. No. But frankly, I would I would think a lot of gays would start getting a little offended here. It's like, is this what you think of us? That we're just the latest virtue toy that we trot it out once in a while? We got to score diversity points. He wants the fan going. Okay, but again, we're a little low on gas again because yesterday I had the bright idea to drive to Gainesville to check out the Second and Charles store up there. And Mecca, get back with me on that because they have a Flying V guitar up there. I think it's like $450. Maybe work something out. It's brown, but I forget the maker. But the Flying V hang up there. I should have taken a picture. But But and this isn't a plea for gas money. We got paid on. I got paid on Monday, so I can handle it from there. Anyway, I'm still gonna go to the quarter tank. So yeah. But you got to go back on the times that Star Trek did handle the issue of same-sex relationships, and look at how they handled it, really. Now, in Next Gen, the Outcast, that was kind of a little ham-fisted, but it was still standard Star Trek. Like take the issue, flip it on its head, and see how the issue holds up then. That's a classic, science fiction trope. And take a current issue and flip it around. Turn around and examine it that way. Kind of look at it upside down. Stand on the desk. Change your point of view. And let's see. Let's read. DS9 took it on a couple of ways. Rejoined and Chimera. Rejoined is when you had Dax meet the newest, basically Jadzia and a former, host of a former mate, and it's like, okay, now it is a female relationship. That's not what the problem was. And that thing, nobody cared that it was two girls going at it, and that it was the prohibition was that it was two former symbiote mates. They're not allowed to rejoin because it causes problems like this. That was the issue. And you had people, and kids, why not just let them do it, And in Chimera, it's like, it kind of touched on thing with this one changeling getting a little on the flamboyant side, shall we say, and Quarkman, this is not the time for a changeling pride parade down the middle of the promenade. And that show, actually, that is a show that I think that really should be growing in prominence, because this was all made in the late 80s, early 90s. And yet, so much of it, with the Dominion War and stuff, has so much more resonance now, post 9/11, and our little war on terror. And that is the mark of a good show right there, the fact that it can be relevant to stuff years after it was made. That the stories apply probably even better now than they did then. And that's why, for a long time, I've been one of those considering that DS9 is really the true successor to the original series. Because they really took on some stuff that the original series was intended to. This is what Star Trek was all about. And in that respect, then we'll say, oh, Gene would have hated DS9. One, Gene did have some input in the early days of DS9. And Berman was telling him, you would talk to him quite a bit about the show they're working up. And Gene had his input. Again, it was very early because he died well before it got really going, and they got into specifics. But he had his input, so they knew what he wanted in the show. But also, the writers on DS9, the vast majority were hardcore original series fans, and thankfully, with Berman's attention directed towards developing Voyager, DS9 was left to run a little bit riot here, and they could do stuff they normally would not have gotten away with if Berman had been paying closer attention. And he hadn't let Ira Steven Behr kind of run the thing for a while. And then Ron Moore gained a prominence, and so they could tackle the thorny issues and really go do some deep dives on some of this stuff. But yeah, where are we? Almost 45 minutes. That's enough to ponder, I think, for the day. So, PayPal, Patreon down below. We will talk at you later. And, again, Mecca, get back to me, because I'm going to see if I can work on something and go pick up that guitar. I'll need gas money and the money to buy the thing and ship it. But other than that, like $450 is not bad for one of those. I forget the maker of it, but yeah. It's brown, I can tell you that. So, talk to you later and bye.